Asha D Rhamakrishna is a #1 best-selling author of the book, The Priestess Code, Awakening the Modern Woman, where the feminine principles are revealed for a more organic and harmonious approach to life. With a background in molecular biology and business development, she breaks all esoteric teachings into practical, logical approaches to living. Asha is a minister of spiritual peacemaking and incorporates philosophies such as feng shui, karma healing, and human design, to name a few. She is originally from Venezuela and is part Indian. She currently lives in Harvard, Massachusetts with her soulmate, 2 human daughters, and a 50-pound Portuguese water dog. Hi, Asha. I love that 50-pound water dog.
She's really my secret favorite daughter.
Oh, that's great. That's greatness. I've got three rescue dogs myself. I can't even tell you what kind they are. They are definitely precious, though. I can tell you that. I'm so excited to do this interview with you. Can you kind of tell us how you got started on this path?
Well, as you hear, I was a scientist.
Yeah, that's
kind of bizarre jump, but not really. I think I see science catching up to spirituality, and I'm seeing it more and more. And, science is really, there is a mystery there. There is an art to it, even though people want to make it seem as though it's all very logical. It really does have that element of intuition. And so anyway, as I was had this very linear, masculine, I would call it, life where I was in a corporate setting, moving up, I came to a point where it just wasn't fitting me. And previous to that, I was still studying spiritual modalities. I'm part Indian, so it's kind of in me anyway. But then I had a moment, and I had a mystical experience right after I left the corporate world, and I received these principles. And that's kind of what you talked about with the book that I wrote, The Priestess Code, Awakening the Modern Woman. I received these principles. And I was taking a shower, and all of a sudden I heard, hold these principles to be truth and to live by. And I was like, what? What is this? And I just ran out of the shower, water dripping everywhere, barely grabbed a towel. And I went to my notebook and I just wrote down what I heard. And they came pretty quickly. And I read what I wrote, and I was like, these are really nice, but I don't live this way. And so it was this pit in my stomach where I realized that this is what I need in order to bring more balance and more harmony into my life. And honestly, a more sense of authenticity for me, because I could feel that, the life that I had been constructing just wasn't really fulfilling me in that deep, soulful place. And it wasn't allowing me to be the kind of parent I wanted to be.
Wow. That's intense. So how long ago was this?
It was over 10 years ago. We're going on 11 years. And it was, uncovering them, because really I didn't understand them. I was such a practical person, and I didn't understand this. I didn't really get them. The first one is, you are a seasonal being, accept it. I was like, what? What is the point of that? What's the point of honoring a season? Who cares? Just get over yourself and keep going, right? And so when my youngest was a baby, I started learning feng shui. And so feng shui has one branch of it that is called 9-star key. And it's really related to the I Ching also. And it does invite you to start exploring those, who you are, your principal numbers as they relate to elements in nature. So you kind of have to start understanding, I'm a little bit more soil, I'm a little bit water, and that gives you an indication of what inner season you can be experiencing each year. So that gave me kind of a framework to look at what inner seasons could be.
Okay, so before we go any further, this, although, this is an astrology summit,
Yep.
and you're not an astrologer, but what you are doing has so much, I mean, so coincides and fits with astrology. It's all together. I mean, it's really just fractals of the same healing practice. I know that the viewers want to know what's your birthday? What's your sun, moon, and
okay.
do you know what your
let me just say, the piece that there's feng shui and 9-star key, which can have an astrology piece to it, but more maybe Chinese slant to it. Human design, which is the biggest component in my work, is a composition of Eastern Western astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah, chakra system, and quantum mechanics. So
you were talking about the elements, and the elements are huge in astrology.
Yeah.
So that's where
so your question was my sign. So I am Cancer, Sun.
Healing.
Scorpio rising.
Okay, deep thoughts. Okay.
And Pisces moon.
Pisces moon, spiritual. Okay. There we go. Okay, that's all we need. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, so that when you're asking me about like where I got started, I think these principles just really opened up an opportunity for me to explore a more compassionate way of living. And then from then it just kept evolving, right? The more I went deeper and deeper into each of the principles, the more that I started looking at what are other tools and other ways in which I can bring compassion and acceptance, radical acceptance for myself, and then for my children, and then for my partner. Because I really do feel that the more that we know ourselves, and the more that we know the people who are in our community, right? The more that we can have better relationships, because we know ourselves, we know them, we accept ourselves, we accept them, and then we kind of build strategies to honor both and still have it work for the whole.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And even, so to give you kind of an astrology example, I look a lot at north nodes in our family, even, because it's a way of each of us and our family supporting one another towards what we're here to grow as a soul. Right? So it's like when my husband's talking to me, my partner's talking to me about what he's wanting to do in his vocation, I'm always going to be slanted to look, dude, you can like do the thing that's super easy for you, or you can move towards growth. And kind of same for me, right? The more, and you're probably like, what's your north node? It's Aquarius.
Well, so, something for redeeming a social condition of some sort. Yeah.
And so then that's I mean, I named, the book, The Priestess Code. Priestessing is about this community and moving things forward in a way that's more evolved. And so my Leo nature, and I have a lot of planets in Leo, my Leo nature is happy to be present. But I am so devoted and committed to my spiritual growth that this is the part that I want to be supported in, moving towards my north node. So I know we went off a little bit, but it's all, I think we're talking about how it's all so super related, right?
This is great. I know that you do a lot of work with relationships. Can you speak to that? Specifically, I'm really interested in how you feel. Your work. There's so much talk right now about the divine feminine and the masculine, and it's almost like it's the buzzword, the divine feminine. And so I wonder sometimes, of course I live here in Texas, and I live in a very conservative county, a lot of ranchers, you know, and I would venture to say that a lot of these guys, you know, they might be feeling a little left out, you know. So honestly, you know, what is the evolution of the male
in all of this?
Yes, I mean, how do we? And of course, we all have you know, male, you know, feminine and male. They have feminine too, but how do we keep from stomping the masculinity right out of the man? Honestly,
I get you. I really do get you. I am learning and teaching myself to begin to use terms like yang and yin versus masculine and feminine. I mean, it's a practice for me to shift it a little bit more in that direction, because like you said, we have both, right? And so I love the sacred feminine. I mean, I'm devoted to the great mother. That's what I feel in my bones. And also I recognize the importance of having an aligned and fully whole, more yang masculine piece in place. And so it's like, I don't coddle men. I think the era of coddling men is over. I think that we have to own that as, you know, my language as priestesses, as humans who are devoted to evolution, who are devoted to resonating with authenticity and total alignment and merging of the soul into the human experience. We are the leaders right now. And I really do feel like it's important that we own our wisdom, our sageness, and that we be okay with what we are doing with men. So, you know, you and I were talking a little bit of what happens when a priestess, when a woman who's in this walk is in relationship to a man, specifically heterosexual relationships. And I think part of what happens when you are just like here and you're moving forward and you're tenacious and you're just like in your power and you're moving and you're moving and you're moving, is that when you are with a man, you can either trigger his samskaras, or as they call it, their karmas, or you can rattle them enough where they make the choice to rise to their own sacredness, to their own healing, to their own wholeness, because they have healing to do. And I will say, you know, as someone who holds both marginalized and privilege, that's me. I hold marginalized identities and I hold privilege, both. As someone who does that, I think that those who have less marginalized identities need to be more listening. So the men need to learn how to listen. That is the most beautiful skill that we have as humans, to be able to listen, to be, I mean, even my husband, my partner will say like, oh, you felt racism? Like, you have your shit together. You know, you've been successful in life. Like, and you felt that? And I was like, oh, honey.
Like, where have you been? Where have you been?
Huh?
Like, where have you been?
Yeah, right. And like, of course I have. I have risen despite that. I have, in a lot of ways, adapted to what is expected of me. And in a lot of ways, like, you know, given the middle finger to the oppression. So there's all of those things that are going on. I do think it's a kind of a complicated time to be alive, but it's a super exciting time too, if you're willing to grow. Women, man, it really doesn't matter. Somebody on the, you know, gender spectrum, like it, we're all here to listen more to each other, to heal more, to know ourselves through these beautiful tools that you and I get to share with people, and invite others to learn these tools. I mean, as a scientist, like, I know like there's people in the scientific community that think like I've just gone crazy. And like, I'm okay with that. I can make anything sound halfway logical. But there is logic in all of this. There is logic in all of this. It's the modern times that have made these esoteric philosophies seem like they are, you know, I don't know, like, I don't know. Some people say it's like witchcraft. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's of the earth, if that's what you want to call it. I don't really care. There's ancient wisdom right here in our land. And why are we not tapping into that?
That's right. It's been here a lot longer than our shell has been.
Yes.
You know? You know, it's, yes, absolutely.
Do you feel like that kind of addresses that piece with the men? And
yeah, yes. Can you bring it to a love relationship part? Can you bring it down to the love relationship, like the marriage between a man and a woman, or I don't guess it has to be between a man and a woman, but between a man and between a couple in the love relationship.
And your question is, how does all this apply to that? Say more.
You know, it seems like there's, you know, when there's this yin, we'll use yin and yang, and the yin is really powerful right now. I mean, you can't deny it, and it's taking over. The yin is taking over, and it's fighting. You know, it's taking over, and it won't always be this way. Probably in another 2,000 years, I think it'll probably flip back. 2,000 some odd years, but we're coming out of a cycle, and then we'll go into a different cycle in another 2,000 years, and you know, it won't always be this way. But for this, during this transition period, you know, I think that for I'm not that I'm trying to coddle men, but you know, like it's a situation where I see that the younger men are having a lot easier time with it than the older men are. So I'm speaking specifically with, say, men that are, you know, 50 and up.
Yeah.
You know, a relationship, or maybe even 40 and up. You know, people that have lived more conservative lives. You know, it's more traditional lives, more traditional secular religions, you know, where the women were more oppressed. You know, it's not that they're bad men. It's not that they have, you know, mistreated or abused their women. It's just the way they grew up. And now they have to shift their thinking. How can a woman be the best leader without losing her shit?
Yeah, right on
a daily basis, man. You know
so I'll give you an example of my relationship, right? 20 years in. And I always say that we have probably had 6 different marriages within this one marriage. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying?
I absolutely get what you're saying.
So what happens when we're in one marriage, in one relationship, in one dynamic, and it's time to shift. It's time to divorce. It's time to break down that construct. And it's time to rebuild something that is more aligned, that really serves each other and the person that's kind of nudging the relationship forward, right, into higher dimensions. You got to allow space. You got to allow space. Because I will tell you that I am the person that my husband's like, everything's awesome. We're awesome. Yeah, look at us. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no, my love, beloved. This is where I'm going. This is what I am wanting and desiring out of this relationship. Do you want to come along? Whoa, what? I thought everything was fine. And so it's like, no, you got some work to do, as do I. And so allowing space for that work to unfold with compassion, holding space, you know, like compassionate teaching, and sometimes not so compassionate, like, no, that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And really seeing the best in the other person. And I think that's one of the things why I love human design so much, because there's this like very strategic piece of the strategies that you use of how you invite people into the next place of evolution. Like for you, having a projector husband, it's all about invitations. So it's like, I want to invite you to look at this differently.
Oh God. Oh my God. Oh God. I'll
So
never forget, you know, I'm a generator, so I'll never forget somebody told him that he was a projector, and they said, oh, and projectors, or was it, I can't remember what it was. Yeah, he's a projector. And projectors have to have a lot of naps. Or maybe it was something like that. I'm like, oh hell. I guess he loves to take naps. I was like, I'm always like, get your ass up out of bed and help me. You know? I'll never forget that. I was like, I'm never coming back to you again.
but right, I mean, yeah, well, especially as generators, we have conditioning.
Yeah.
Have conditioning around how people should be. Just like, you know, the 40, 50-year-old men that you're talking about, they have conditioning of how they think the world needs to operate. Well, wait a second, this has worked really nicely for me up to this point. And now you're saying that I have to be careful with the things I say and how free I am with how I view women or what I say or how I joke. Like you're asking me to change the way that my humor works.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and what I would gently say, it's like you know, I'm in my late 40s, right? And so I'm starting to see, and I'm like trying so hard to stay hip with my teenagers, and that's, you know, that there's just eye rolls everywhere about what how cool I try to be. But what I realize is that it's really important for me to stay plugged into their culture. It's really, really important because I don't want to be that fuddy-duddy that doesn't get it. Like, I want to get them. Beyond their human design, right? Like beyond who they are. Like, I want to get their entire culture. I want to love them for what they are. And like, if we can start inviting our men to like, can you appreciate that this will make us better as a whole? Like, can you appreciate that having diversity, having different voices makes it better? Yeah. And I think underneath all of that resistance, they get that it's better. I mean, I had an interesting conversation with a scientist, and we happened to meet a woman that he was interviewing for a position about a year ago. And I know that he had certain ideas about, well, she's awesome, she's super smart, but she's like getting ready to have a new family. So that was his like, well, maybe I don't want to hire this person. And he's kicking himself because the person that he hired is some young man who it doesn't have the kind of vibrancy and hardworking ethics that this young woman has. And so, you know, I think people are starting to see their own biases. They're starting to, if they're really honest with themselves, they're starting to see their own biases, and they're starting to see like, well, I have this idea of what a good worker is, but what if I can get, you know, 30 hours of incredible work from this new mom, and, you know, this guy's giving me 50, which on the books, it sounds right. From my conventional way of looking at work, it sounds right, but he's not as like vibrant and present. So I think people are starting to see their own biases. And I do think it is our job, for any of us who hold any marginalized identity, I think it is our job to call it out. I really, really, really do. And it's not fun. It's uncomfortable. I get that. And we get to say, ooh, I'm sorry if that was a little too harsh. And can we all can we all be on the same page about how we really do need to shift all of this?
Wow.
Because some of those 40, 50-year-old men have daughters.
Yes, absolutely.
So what do they want for them?
Yeah. You know, something that you said to me about trying to stay, you know, kind of hip to the crowd, you know, hip to the kids. Don't you think that this generation, this generation that are teens, you know, right now, don't you think they're remarkable?
I do.
I think that they are so enlightened. I mean, they get it.
Mm-hmm. I do.
They are so on it. They're just boom, you know?
The way that these young people react to their own charts is remarkable. Like
Mm-hmm.
they are so present to it, so
Mm-hmm.
present to it. They're so like, oh yeah, they want to learn about themselves. They care about humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of my kids is like, 16 and total activist and humanitarian. Like I can see it in the things that she's passionate about, the things that she cares about, the way she calls out boys in their inappropriate behavior. I am like, oh my goodness, like I didn't have that. I
Yeah.
might have seen things that I thought were off, but I
Yeah.
didn't have the courage and the backing of an entire society saying, yeah, you tell them that's not okay.
Mm-hmm. I know. I'm so happy for them that they're not going to go through a lot of what we went through. That they have that backbone and the the moral fortitude. You know, really they were just born with it. Clearly,
They were
so.
born with it, but you know what I always say in any kind of new version of feminism, I think that the women and the men and the supporters and allies that come before us make it so that we can, right? And like you study the energetics and the astrology of why certain things arise and why certain things are just primed for the timing, right? So there's like all these things at play. And I do, I kind of want to pat ourselves on the back for being there for them and
Yeah.
for really encouraging them to be themselves.
Yes, me too. Me too. Yeah, they've got a leg up for sure. So, okay, so explain when people come to you, what a session is like with you. And did I see that you do a podcast?
I do.
Okay, so talk a little bit about your services and things like that. And
Okay.
I know we're gonna put a link down below for a gift if you want to talk about that after you tell about how all the good stuff that you do.
Thanks. I don't go out of my way to say like I'm a relationship person or anything like that, but I think everything's a relationship anyway, right? It's like if you are somebody who has their own business, or if, you're somebody who wants to be a leader or more in tune with their own vocation, you're having to negotiate and you're having to have people around you that they either have to support you or they have to listen to you, or you needing to negotiate. So I do think that even though my main focus is supporting women in these really practical tools to be able to create what they want, like to feel good, be wealthy, and give back. That's kind of my little motto. I think it does affect relationships, and especially when you start looking at the dynamic of the human design. So human design is the thing that I'm obsessed with. Like I am just like so all in. I've been since I discovered it over 13 years ago. I was sharing with you a little bit that I did it because I didn't know what to do with my daughter. And human design really gave me a context to why she was the way she was. And then it kind of opened up to, ooh, why am I the way I am? And then it was like, oh, how am I in partnership with my partner and what we're building together? And how do we bring these two together? So human design tends to be a big starting point of how people work with me. And then I do run occasional retreats and women's gatherings. Yeah, and then the podcast.
Are those usually there? I know you can find stuff on your website, which we'll post all that information. But are those usually there in Massachusetts? Those retreats?
So right now, yes. I'll probably be doing something in the Miami area, and then potentially in San Diego. Yeah, another thing that I'm really devoted to is opening up my work to more Latinas and women of color. Because I think that it's important for all of us to have access. And yeah, it's something I'm actively working on too for myself, like getting clarity of where are the places that I have not really been present to my community. And then the podcast has been this, it's funny, like I've been doing these interviews for now 3 years, and just recently, made them available on iTunes. Women on Purpose is the podcast, and then on Spotify and SoundCloud. So it's really, really supposed to be conversations with women to really hear their stories and their medicine that can help us kind of move forward more into ourselves. And then, because I tell people, I'm like, I get impatient with scheduling people. So then I do these solo ones where whatever people ask me, I just, share a piece of medicine, wisdom that I've been privileged to experience and embody.
That's awesome. You're such a beautiful soul.
Thank you.
You are. What a gift to be able to have you here on this summit, and to hear your broad view of healing. Just a really broad, really what can I say? It's practical.
I don't know why I'm so practical. I mean, I'm so esoteric and like can be in like bliss mode completely. But I honestly, I was saying this, I was like, I can see me floating away. Like that's
because you're triple water.
Right? I got my water here. But you know what keeps me grounded is being a mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being a mother and having always had the pressure in some ways to provide for my children, there's something about that I think for a long time I felt like, I can't, like, why can't I just be taken care of? And what I'm realizing, what's really landing for me is how good it is that, I don't have somebody giving me everything, that I gotta work for what I have, and I got to show up for these kids honestly. And, a big thing of great mother is like, feed the children, man. If you can't feed the children, sister, like all the meditation that you do and all the blissing out that you do, it is not gonna work.
Yeah. I've heard that so many times from my clients. That because they've got so much air, they've got no earth at all, and they'll be like, I don't know why I just can't get up out of bed. I have no energy. Wow, really? You should have a lot of energy. I haven't had any energy since I've had kids. Well, that kind of happens. No, I don't think it's that. I just think that I have to. It just keeps me grounded. I just say that they just think they just say that it just keeps them grounded, and that they probably before that they were huge partiers, and they would, they would have been here, they would have been there, they would have been, traveling all over the world, but they had to stop everything and just think about somebody else.
Something that comes up when you say that too, I think it's burnout. I think is a real thing. And I think why I'm so devoted to the whole seasonal being thing, and like really like melting into that kind of practices and philosophy, is that it allows a space to be in stillness when that's what we need. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we do need that. And I'll tell you that I just spent about, I say a year, but I think it was probably a half a year. It was so painful for me. But not painful, but just it slowed me down so much. I was in like about 6 months of spending time in ceremony, personal like devotion to the feminine. And it's kind of counter to what the mind wants you to do, right? Like my mind was like, what's the point of this? And my mind wasn't really enrolled, but I was just like, every Friday I would go into like ritual and ceremony because I really was feeling like I was in a more internal season. I couldn't force creativity out of me. I just couldn't. And so I had to honor that. And then it was like, I'm telling you, solstice hit, and it was like, it was as if I received this message of, I heard you, and let's go party.
Let's go now. Now you've got it. You're recharged. Your battery's recharged. So we're recording this on January 19th, and we have a lunar, big supermoon, blood moon, lunar eclipse in 2 days. You'll see it in 2 days at 12:12 a.m. How do you feel about lunar eclipse? Do you give it much thought?
Yeah, totally. I'm such a loony. Like, I'm all about the moon. Absolutely. For me I read a little bit of what's happening. Your video's not present. I don't know if you meant to do that. I read about things, but really what I do is that I really become present to what I feel. And I do a little like hack, if you will, that I've done when I see impending toughies, if it can feel that way or it can be that way, is that I actually do ceremony prior to the actual thing happening. And I feel like that kind of prepares my system, my nervous system, to be more present to the energy without getting myself like off track, or it's a way for me to better support myself before these kind of energies. So for this lunar eclipse, I think I'm just really present to what comes up for me. And
well, this one, you got a lot of Leo. This one's the last one in Leo. And in addition to that, it's in the North Node. So, and you were just talking about celebrating. So this is a really good one for you. Me too. I've got a lot of Leo too, and my North Node is in Leo. So.
Oh, that's so fun! It's so fun.
Yeah. So I'm gonna celebrate and try not to argue with my husband. A lot about love and leadership and stuff like that.
Love it.
So tell us about the free gift that you're offering, and that'd be great.
All right. So the free gift that I'm offering is about connecting to your Dharma type. So you can feel as though like, where is this coming from? But I feel like when we connect to our archetype, the archetype of what we're here to do, it has we have an opportunity to kind of create like a field around it. And when we can create a field around it, then all these other tools, astrology, human design, all these different, I Ching, philosophy, all these things have a way to support that archetype. So I'll give you an example. One of the archetypes is teacher. And I walk people through this process of clarifying what their archetype is. And if you are teacher, then how are you going to teach? What can you teach? What have you mastered? What have you spent 10,000 hours, 10 years studying? And what are you ready to begin teaching? And the more that you can, melt into that archetype, the more that you can start activating those pieces of you that are related to your soul and that are wanting to express themselves in this lifetime. So the Dharma type process.
Wow. Yes, that's great. Okay, so if you want that gift, which you all should take advantage of that, I'm going to. The link will be right underneath this video. So that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this interview. It's been lovely. It's great getting to know you. I'm sure we'll get to talk in the future, and hopefully we'll get to do another project together. You're lovely, just a lovely person, and I'm just so blessed.
Oh my goodness. Likewise. I really appreciate you creating the space for people to get to know more about astrology. And I'm hoping that what I brought to the table allows people to have context of why we do astrology, why we do these things, and, you know, the greater acceptance of self and others, and to honor one another. I mean, if we can give that gift to the people closest to us, then imagine the kind of world we could have.
Absolutely. And they can find your book on your website. Can they find your book on Amazon?
Yep. Amazon and Barnes and Noble are the places. And if
Awesome.
you have a local bookstore that wants to carry it, I want to support local bookstores, and I'm, you know, happy to contemplate coming and talking at local bookstores for sure too.
Oh, great. It's wonderful. Okay. And then they can contact you for a human design session or any
Yep.
the other modalities that you do. So
yeah, human design. It's, you know, my email is asha@ashaisnow.com, and I am pretty active on Instagram. If you're Instagrammers, Asha is now.
Asha
That's
is
a fun
now.
place for me to hang out. So,
and we'll have all those links too. So
okay, cool.
To find you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you very much. Blessings. Have a great day.
Thank you.